Hi, this is Mohamed Isa of Axelerate Academy, and today I have one of my best business authors, an author who influenced me a lot, Jeffery Fox, all the way from USA. Jeffrey, welcome to this talk.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Jeffrey, I bought this book, How to Become a CEO, around 20 years ago, exactly on 29th of September 2001. And I bought it with a friend of mine from Saudi. He has another copy of the book and he loves the book just the way I love it. So what I want to do, I want to give my audience some value today by having a few questions. The questions will revolve around few topics to tap into your great experience.
Okay.
Now, regarding some career questions, who was your favorite boss and why?
I had, like a lot of us, you could count on one hand the number of great coaches you've had and great teachers in school. And so a great boss is also a great teacher. And so if you look at your best teachers you had when you were a kid and you look at your coaches when you played sports, and then when you get into business, you'll see that there's a commonality among these guys. So my first great boss was a guy named Lee Knowles, and he was president of Bolia Vineyard Winery in Napa Valley, California. And I worked for him. And he was a terrific boss. So one day we're out, and I'm young, just out of school, right? And we're going to visit all the restaurants and the distributors and the ad agency and stores that sold wine and everything, and all day. And then on the way back to the winery, Lee said to me, he said, "Jeffrey, are you ambitious?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Then it's restaurateur, not restauranteur." I had been mispronouncing the word all day, being a big shot, talking to the advertising agency, restaurateur. I said, "Oh man," I said, "Holy cow, so that's a faux pas." And he said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Would you like some more advice?" I said, "Oh my goodness, I should throw myself out of the car." And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "Well, let's start with your shoes." And he taught me everything about how to dress for success, how to listen, how to do your homework in detail. He was a terrific boss. And so I dedicated one of my books to him, and I can't remember which one.
I'm sure he had a big influence. And as you rightly said, there are teachers who he will never forget who taught us.
Right.
Basically, they went beyond teaching you the subject. So I can relate to that.
Right.
Now, without mentioning his or her name, who was your worst boss and why?
I had two terrible bosses. And it's good to have a terrible boss.
Sure.
Because when you come to work and you go like, holy cow, you see him in the hall, you can't believe he's still there. You would have thought that he would have been fired. And so I learned a lot about poor bosses, and it's good to have one because you instinctively know what's right and wrong. And when a guy acts carelessly with people, you know he's a wrong boss. And so I had these two guys, and I learned an awful lot from bad bosses. And it's funny, ultimately, the higher ups, they knew. But in corporations, in big corporations especially, a bad boss is not immediately dealt with. And the reason it is because a lot of people were involved in the hiring of the person, and a lot of people they paid him money, they probably gave him good reviews, or her, and they gave her raises. So they're kind of invested in the wrong decision. In a small company, you learn right away if you made a mistake, and small companies can't afford. So in my book, How to Become a Great Boss, I have a chapter that says, hire slow, fire fast. Take your time hiring. And another rule I do now, Mohammed, I haven't really put in a new book yet, but when I interview somebody for a client or for Fox and Company, I say to them, look, only you know if you can do the job. You could be a Heisman Trophy winner, Stanford MBA, whatever. But only you know if you can do the job. So ask me any question you can, and I'll answer it the best I can. Because you hire yourself and you fire yourself. I say this in the interviews up front because all of us have made mistakes, at least I have, hiring people. You make a mistake. And usually it's because the guy conned you. He said or implied or inferred that he could do something that he couldn't, or he had some character flaw or whatever. So I don't let my clients take the blame for a mishire. It's a misinterview. So now what I do is I always say that to the person. I said, ask me any question, because I'm going to tell you what's expected. And you can tell me if you can perform that way or not. So that's what you learn from a bad boss. You learn how to be a good boss.
Absolutely. and that's big fun, how not to do things.
Right.
Excellent. Now, Jeffrey, you already told us that you had different bosses, which implies that you were working in different companies.
Right.
And then you made the leap to become your own boss.
Right.
How did you make that leap? Because many people find it difficult or challenging to leave a salary and the perks and go on their own.
Right. I understand that. But my circumstances forced me to go to work for a company early on. I was drafted into the military, and when I came out and whatever, I had a summer job lined up before going to the military. And when I got out, the guy called me and he said, would you come to work for us? And I did. And I worked for 3 very great companies. I worked for a company called Hubline, which is now Diageo in the United States. And they were marketers of consumer products, spirits and wines, and Grey Poupon mustard and A1 sauce. They were a terrific company. I learned a lot. And I was promoted like 6 times in 5 years. And I got recruited by another great company, which is called Pillsbury. They're no longer, they've been acquired since. And I went out to run the sales and marketing for their wineries in California. And we had 2 little children. And then that winery was sold. It had to be sold. It's called Souverain, and Pillsbury had to sell it. So they wanted me to go back to Minneapolis, where they're headquartered, and work in some frozen food. I decided I'd like to go back to Connecticut. I ended up going to work for another great company called Loctite. It's now been acquired by Henkel out of Germany. It's Henkel Loctite.
Yeah.
And I worked there for 6 or so years, and I always wanted to have my own business. So I was a corporate officer, and I was all this big jazzy stuff. And I was like, 33 or 4, something like that. I decided I want to have my own company. And so I decided to start the consulting company. And the first week, all 3 companies became a client. Hubline, Pillsbury, and Loctite all became clients. So I never kind of really had to really market my services because of word of mouth. And but I don't regret it. I've always preferred to be my own boss, as you would think. A lot of Americans obey laws but don't like to take orders. It's an American thing, and I'm the epitome of that. And if it's a bad law, I don't pay attention to it either. But I'm certainly not going to take it. So I prefer to make my own mistakes, and that's what happened.
Now, since you had the 3 companies as a client, let's say in a short time, I'm sure that helped you to launch your business.
Yes.
So if someone doesn't have that privilege, what should they do?
Well, they have to start planning what they're going to do, and what they're, depending on whether they want to buy a company, start a company, go into solo practice, whatever they can do. I mean, you just can't buy a company if you don't have any money, right?
Yeah.
And you can't just start a business if you don't know anybody. So you want to think of what you're going to do, and then plan how to get the most important factor for success in a business. Without exception, it's not the money, it's not the planning, it's not the business name or whatever. The most important thing to be successful in the business is to have a customer. So you want to have a customer that will be good today and tomorrow. So the first thing you do is you figure out what you want to do and then try to understand the marketplace. If you want to be a lawyer, you want to understand where the lawsuits are or whatever. And then you start to get things in line. You start talking, networking with people. You're not being secret against the company you work for. You still do your hard work for them. But you also remember that in that company, you've met a lot of people. You've met their customers. You've met their suppliers. You've met their outside advisors. So people know way more people than they think. But that's why you got to take your time, make lists. Who do I know? Who do I know? Who knows who? Because in my business, the management, marketing, consulting, and in almost all service business, whether it's accounting, architecture, engineering, law, whatever, the most important marketing tool is referrals. That's the most important. That's the most important. So you start looking at how to get a referral, that kind of thing.
And if you don't do an excellent job, you will never get a referral. That's given. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be able to do it. I mean, to me, being able to do the job is like getting dressed for a game. You have to be able to get on the field. So don't go into an area where you have no expertise or no confidence or whatever. Do something that comes. Here's another thing. It's one of my books, How to Make Big Money in Your Own Small Business. Do something that comes easy to you and is hard for others. And that's not such an easy concept to understand, because a lot of people don't realize that what they're really good at, because it comes easy to them. They don't know. Yeah. My grandmother, for example, was a wonderful piano player, but she learned by ear. She didn't have any lessons or anything. So she thought everybody could play the piano like she did, because it came easy to her. So what comes easy to you that may be difficult for others? That's another introspective analysis you've got to make. And then, of course, you've got to be able to commit 100% to it.
Yeah, I was coaching someone today in the afternoon. He's into sales and marketing in the media, and he's making his employers a ton of money, but he's not making so much. And I told him, this is what you can do. Right. Go and establish a media company. That's it. You know the business, you know the context, you know everything. Just start. Why wait?
Yeah. But plan it first. Plan. You know,
exactly.
Get out there and talk to some people and say, you know, originally when I was going to start my own company, because I was in the annual report that had already been published or was about to be published, the chairman of the board asked me, would I stay for a few more months? And I said yes. And I used that time to get them as a client. And I let the word out to people that I'm starting my own marketing consulting company, and people just started calling.
Yeah. So it's not like teaching people how to swim. Just jump in the swimming pool and you'll figure it out. You need to learn first.
Start in the shallow end where it's safe.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you for your insights, Jeffrey. Now, let's move to one of my favorite business books, How to Become a CEO. Let's talk about this, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Why did you write the book?
Well, I wrote it, had children that were growing up, and I wanted to give them success rules so they could be successful when they started their own company, bought a company, or went to work for a company. And at the same time, I had clients of mine that would say, Jeffrey, look at Jack is graduating from college. He won't listen to a word I say. So I started to put these ideas together, and I had them single typed on pages and what have you. And I was a trustee of a very good college in America called Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And the director of athletics asked me to come and speak to 30 kids who were not only varsity athletes, varsity letters, but they were also very good academic students. He said, come and speak for 20 minutes. And I knew that meant 10. And so I brought with me this untitled, it wasn't titled at the time, this bunch of pages, you know, sort of spiral bound, and I gave it as a gift to everybody. I said, here, you go in the big bad world, here's some ideas. And unbeknownst to me, all of it, they started passing it around to their friends and their family and whatever. And all of it, most of it, I guess, the book got into the hands of a guy in California who was at that time called a book packager. He called me up and he said, Jeffrey, I think you have a book. I said, seriously? He goes, yeah. And he said, but it needs a title. And so I called it How to Become CEO after I wrote it. Okay. And then he said, I got to get you an agent. So a week later, he got me an agent, which is like impossible to do these days. And 3 weeks later, she called me and she said, Jeffrey, I've got fabulous news. And I said, what is it? She said, well, we have an offer for $50,000 to publish your book in the United States. And I said, well, $50,000, is that, is that Manchester United 2 and Chelsea 0? Or what's that? She said, oh, that's a very good offer. Very good offer for a non-celebrity CEO, first time book. She said, do you want to think about it? I said, sure. So it's 7 minutes to 12 on the same day. My wonderful agent called me up and she said, Jeffrey, I've got fantastic news. And I said, what is it? She said, well, we have an offer, a preemptive offer to publish your book in the United States for $125,000.
Wow. And
I said, well, what's a preemptive offer? And she said, well, if you don't take this offer by 3:00 this afternoon, it disappears. Do you want to think about it? I said, yeah, I'll take it. And so that book was published. It made the New York Times bestseller, Business Week, Wall Street Journal, all the one, How to Become CEO. It's been published in 40, 50 languages. And it was a fun thing, but that's how it happened. And then, of course, they signed me up to write a couple more books and a couple more books. And I think I've gotten 13 books now. I'm not 100% sure about that. There may be 240 foreign or international, I shouldn't say foreign, international titles. They're in audio and all that jazz. And by the way, it's a sideline, it's not my full-time thing. Yeah. I write a chapter on the plane. I'll write a chapter if I take myself to lunch or whatever. And I'm working on 2 or 3 books now, by the way. The last couple of years, I haven't written a book under my brand name. I ghost wrote them for 2 CEOs. I ghost wrote 2 books, and those are bestsellers.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Yeah. Your answer has so many insights. If we just dissect it, we will have so many lessons for the viewers. Just giving away value.
Well, here's another
bring
thing.
Value. Yeah.
Well, here's another thing. So everything is marketing, right? And you had mentioned earlier the size of the book. Okay. At the time we published that book, publishers are not really good marketing people. They're good people. They're very smart, but they're, ex-English majors or something. Yeah. So my books, you can read forward or backwards. 94% of all business books are read to the 12th or 14th page and then put down because they're so boring. So my books are short and readable and digestible, as you know. But I also came up with the concept that, of the size of the book. Yeah. The size of the book is not, that's not a guess. That size of the book you're holding now can fit in a woman's purse or in a man's jacket pocket. And it can be read on one flight from Hartford to Chicago. So, and it's priced between the price of a high-priced hardcover and a lower-priced soft cover. It's in between on purpose. Yep. So all of the things that we did for that were to make it readable. You'll notice on the back cover, I give 10 chapter titles. Yeah. So I'm really advertising the book on its cover.
Yeah. It's a great blurb at the end. You don't have to write anything. You don't have to describe it. Just take value at the face of it.
Right. Exactly.
And I love that.
And the other thing too, it's very important for people to, whether you're writing a book or you're writing an email or you're writing a handwritten card to a customer or whatever, you've got to be readable. You can't do long-winded stuff. You can't have that. You got to be able to do it short. And so that is why that book is written the way it is. I know big words, but I don't use them.
Absolutely.
I write the book so it's readable. That's almost an impossible challenge for some people in business. You've seen them yourself. you'll see a email that's 100 pages long, and you got to look to the last page to figure out what the guy's talking. That's what this is about, is how to communicate so that it's readable, digestible, understandable.
Yeah, I love that. And you reminded me with a very highly acclaimed book by a professor in one of the top universities in the United Kingdom. And I was in London. I bought the book. I read the introduction and I threw it away.
Correct.
Because it was very hard to read. It's very
Right.
hard to read. So you want people to read your insights and make it simple for them.
So the professor, you see,
Yeah.
he has to make it look hard, because that means I'm the writer. I'm very smart. I'm an
Very
intellectual.
smart.
Da 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 da. And he's trying to impress instead of express. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. When it's about me or I, you lose. When it's about you, you win. So the books are written to be read, not to show off.
Exactly. Make it simple.
Yeah.
All right. This perhaps is a little bit challenging. I know that because I'm an author myself. So you offer 75 tips on how to become a CEO.
Yeah.
Which one is the most important one, in your opinion?
Okay. So I wrote it 20 years ago. So let's think. Anyway, I have a chapter in there that's an acronym: WACADAD. Whackadad.
Yeah, it's very attractive.
Yeah, but
it's already circled in my book.
Okay. Well, Whackadad, for the listeners, for the audience, stands for words are cheap and deeds are dear. It's not what you say, it's what you do. That's what people will remember. Outcomes, performance. People can be big talkers and do nothing. Other people can say nothing and do a lot. So words are cheap and deeds are dear. And your words is your word. That's a promise. If I, with every single client meeting, without exception, for years and years, I end the meeting with the following thing: who will do what by when? Okay? Who, the person is being assigned, will do what and why when? What's the date? If every one of your audience simply follows that rule for themselves and for whomever they work, they'll always be ahead, because that puts the emphasis on Whackadad. Words are cheap and deeds are dear. You're going to do this by this time, period.
Yeah. So accountability and performance.
Exactly. And taking responsibility. So accountability. But there's lots of cool chapters in the book, I think. Lots of cool chapters.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you published this book in 1998.
Yeah.
And we are in 2021.
Yeah.
What changed for becoming a CEO, in your opinion?
Well, I think there's a lot of new communication technology out there. The internet, that doesn't exist. Cell phones didn't exist. Social media didn't exist. 24-hour communications, cable and all that didn't exist. So all of those are tools. And today I'm updating some of my books because they're going to be republished again, whatever. I'm taking that into effect because I think people have to understand how to use these new Zoom, for example, what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
That brought the world together. And then we had these pandemics, COVID and whatnot. And you see the different responses by governments and all that. And you can just see how they make mistakes and they don't do it right and everything. I think the CEO of today has to understand the consequences of these new communication techniques and understand that social media can also be anti-social media. We see a lot of my clients today complain about some of the new kids coming out of college and university, that they'd rather let a phone call go to voicemail, or they'd rather do an email than make a face-to-face sales call. They're going to lose out on that because you can't make $1 million deal on email.
Nope.
And so that's not using those devices properly. And I think, and like everything, these communication improvements have been happening since the carrier pigeon went out of business and the Pony Express and and what they have to always understand, and they don't, is that the message always trumps the media. You've got to be able to say and communicate what is in it, what value is in it for the reader. Why should the reader go by the first sentence? Why should somebody go on Zoom? You see people today with PowerPoint. That didn't exist.
Yeah.
It existed in a different kind of format. I mean, obviously, it wasn't called
transparency.
PowerPoint. Yeah, or a mimeograph. But you see guys do powergraph salesmen. They got 100 slides. They only need 3. And if they can't get it to 3. In 1851, Gustave Flaubert, a great French novelist, wrote, "It's no easy business being simple." And so today's great leaders, whether they're CEOs or not, tend to be simple. They work on 3 or 4 things, not 30 or 40 things. They work on 3 or 4 very important things. In my new book I'm working on now, I've got a chapter that says prioritize and calendarize. The discipline of putting 3 or 4 things in priority and then calendarizing what will be done by when. And so I think also that the CEOs of today, and this is, I think it's a self-inflicted error, are getting far too involved with social problems. And, it's all about your customer. And if you say, I'm of this political party or that political party, or you wear the Yankees baseball cap or the Red Sox baseball, you're offending somebody.
Absolutely.
And you shouldn't do that. It should be, it's always about the customer, always about the customer. So when you see, the CEO of Coca-Cola getting involved in some law in some state, it's ridiculous to do that.
Yeah, focus on the customer who pays your salary.
Right. If I were the board of directors for that guy, I would have fired him because it's anti some customer. It may be, okay with the other guys, but you
don't want to alienate any potential customers.
Of course, that's right. You don't.
Yeah.
And customers change. Customers change. They get older. They get richer. They get poorer. They have children. They move locations. All of those things are in constant flux. And you got to be on top of that so that your products and services are always relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'd like to move to a subject that in our region, in the Middle East, most of the young would shy away from this profession, sales.
Sales,
yeah. So,
yeah.
So how do you become an effective salesperson?
Okay, first of all, it's a mistake to shy away from sales because everybody is in sales. Trying to get your 2-year-old to eat the vegetables is a sales job. Being a school teacher and getting the kids to do homework is a sales job. So everybody is in sales. You can call it whatever you want, but it's still the church. The head of the church wants to get more people into the church, into the mosque, into the whatever. That's a sales job, and so just everybody should understand that's a given. Everybody is in sales, and so I wrote a book, How to Become a Rainmaker, and a rainmaker is the penultimate salesperson, right?
Yeah,
and being a salesperson is not a function of personality. It's a type of professionalism. You learn how to sell. Now, there's a stereotype that it's all salespeople talk, and that's not true. The great salespeople go on a sales call and ask questions and listen and take notes and make sure they listen for names, facts, dates, places. They pre-call plan their sales call. You don't have to be a big shot. You don't have to be flamboyant. You just have to be interested in the customer. I mean, when you're a doctor and you question your patient, what are you trying to do? You're trying to understand what's wrong. How about if you're a veterinarian?
Finding the pain.
Yeah, because dogs don't talk,
Mm.
right? So you've got to be observant and listen and all these things. So it's a mistake to think that sales is unprofessional. It's not. It's one of the top professions. And here's another thing. Only 10% of all salespeople are rainmakers. Many of them own their own small businesses. And they're all different personalities. They're male, female, old, young, black, white, green. They're all different personalities. But of all the salespeople in the world, only 10% are rainmakers. And they make 90, 80% of all the money. So if you're a young person listening to this today and you ultimately want to start your own business, if you don't feel you're a rainmaker, the first hire is a rainmaker. You need to be able to sell the banks on giving you a loan. You need to be able to sell the suppliers and giving you a couple of months to pay. You need to be able to sell people to come to work for you. You need to be able to sell customers to come in the door. You want customers to come back. That's all sales. So you don't have to call yourself a salesperson.
Yeah.
Call yourself whatever you want. But you
That-
can't get away from that reality.
Yeah. Some people are worried of not hitting their targets and getting fired. What do you say to them?
Well, if you understand what your goals are and you understand the goals up front and they're reachable and doable, then what you do is you develop a plan to hit those goals. And you ask everybody in the company to help you. Everybody.
Yeah.
You agree to the goals. Then everybody helps you. That's the what. Now you got to get the how. How do I reach that goal? And you ask your boss, you ask your colleagues, you ask customers, you ask, how do I help you, customer, do X, Y, and Z? And when the customer does X, Y, and Z, then revenues come in and that you meet your goal. So it's not somebody else's responsibility. If you agree to the goals, and you should, and make sure they're doable, reachable, you have some idea how to do it, then do it. Don't spend your time. Huh?
You reminded me with a story that I came to know about. I was delivering a customer service training to one company, and they are in the construction business. I asked them this question, and I was surprised no one could answer it at first. But then they had to make calls back to the company and get me the answer. I asked them, who's your sales legend? Is there a sales legend? Someone you hear stories of his stories all the time? And they found out who was the sales legend. And this
Let me
guy,
guess. Let me guess.
Yeah.
It was the grandfather who started the business with a shovel and a wheelbarrow 50 years ago. That's the guy.
Yeah. So this guy, he knew they are into the construction sector. And if he gets one of the biggest architects to deal with him, that would be it. So that guy, because he was so rich, he had 4 houses, and he would stay in one house each night. He would never declare because he knew everyone was behind him for business. So he wanted to have peace of mind when he goes to sleep. So this guy followed him when he left the office, and he slept next to his house. So when the gate of the garage opened in the morning, he stopped him and talked to him, and he got him as a client.
There you
and
go.
That was the turning point of the company.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
And if you realize when you're in sales that you're not about yourself, you're about the customer. You're giving the customer something. I wrote a book called The Dollarization Discipline. What it does is it dollarizes in any currency the value of the benefits you're giving a customer. So you have to understand, what is your service or product worth to the customer in terms of solving a problem or creating an opportunity. And once you understand the dollarized value, that doing this will save you $100,000 a year, you could sell your service for $50,000. The guy makes 50. So you're giving the customer $50,000. When you know you're doing that, it's really easier to get the customer to invest.
Yeah. They can see the benefit and the value.
Right.
All right. Yeah. Do you believe in the theory that sales professionals can go and become CEOs?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's two ways. You can be an actual salesperson, all right, and work your way up that way. Or you can be someone that sells inside, that sells well inside, that sells your ideas to your colleagues, or sells an innovation inside. But if you're not a salesperson, you're not going to get to the top. You're just not. Or if you get to the top, you're not going to stay.
So communication is key.
Key, crystal clear.
Now let's move to the final segment of our talk, and you have already alluded to this: how to put a dollar value on an intangible service. Say there is an executive coach who wants to price his coaching sessions. What should he do, or what she should do?
Okay, let's start with the beginning. First of all, you can dollarize any product or service. Any product or service. A service has benefits. The difference is selling the services is harder than selling a product because you can't taste it, sample it, touch it. You really are betting on the future. So that's knowing that you've got to be a more intelligent salesperson. And you look at your service, let's say it's executive coach, as you said, okay? Why should, and this is the most important question in business. If I were the customer, knowing what I know about myself and the market, why would I do business with me? Why should someone read my ad? Why should someone take my package off the shelf? Why should someone hire me? Those questions, if you can answer that question in terms of dollars and cents, you're going to win. Excuse me. Excuse me. So let's say the coach, let me just put this on. Hold on a second. Let's say the coach, and I got a guy now just asked me the other day, would I be his professional coach? And I said, I never did it, but I'll do it. What does he want? Why does this guy want a coach? When you're talking perspective, is it to get, and you have to understand why people buy. The businesses buy and people buy to solve a problem or to feel good, okay? You buy a sweater, maybe you solve a problem, you don't freeze to death, or you look good. It's that combination, solving a problem or feeling good. In business, solving a problem is the reduction or elimination of current costs. It's increasing the customer's gross margin revenues, or it's helping a customer avoid a preventable future negative event. That's it. They manifest themselves a million ways. So now you're the life coach. And you figure out, talking to this person, where is the deficiencies or whatever. And they're usually, people who hire life coaches are very successful. That's counterintuitive for people. They're very successful, or they're ambitious, or they've got talent. But what they are, they may lack confidence. They may lack emotional intelligence or whatever. And so if you can help the customer achieve their goals, they're going to put a value on that. They're going to say, wow, I lost 25 pounds, or I'm more confident, or I'm now better able to speak in public, whatever. There's a value to that. If you can help have the customer articulate it, which is why you have to have lots of good questions, but you can dollarize any service. I call it product sizing. You productize the service. Let me give you an example. Same service, burglar alarms, okay? You can have burglar alarms around your building, your house, or whatever, and they got cameras and flashlights and they go off. Or you can hire a guard service.
Yeah.
Okay? So you could hire mean dogs. It's the same. So what's the benefit of the burglar alarm? Well, you eliminate a burglary. What would a burglary cost you? $12,000. So you can get the guards for $5,000 or the alarms for $1,000. That's the dollarized value of that service. Doesn't matter whether it's a product or a service. The same benefit.
Or maybe you could say to the insurance company, I have these systems, so that the premium is lower.
Exactly. The premium is lower, or you can, eliminate something. There's always a value. And if the dollarized value is less than your price, you're not going to get the business.
Again, coming back to value.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, you own a small business. By the name, it's a small, but how can you make big money?
Well, you got to remember there's a difference between small and big and profits. Okay. There are big companies that will go out of business. The small business guy, and it depends on what their definition of big money is also. Okay. But small companies, the guy can be nimble. He will work longer than somebody else. He doesn't have the overhead, may not have all the expenses associated with a big business and those kind of things. So the reason that there are so many thousands and thousands and thousands of small businesses that have been around for a long time is because the owner and the investors make money.
Yeah.
They make money by first of all, small businesses are much more efficient than big businesses, way more efficient. Small businesses make a decision in a day that a big business makes in months, and all that lost time. Small businesses are conservative. These guys but they're innovative. Here's the difference between corporate executives and big corporations, Mohamed, and small businesses, entrepreneurs, innovators. In a big company, management can hear yes 99 times and no once and abort. The small guy can hear no 99 times and yes once and go ahead. So small business people are inherently more profitable than the big companies. Not all big companies. Obviously, there's some big companies that are humongously profitable, but that's wonderful. But
I can think of a few real estate agents who are making so much money.
When you drive down a neighborhood someday, and you'll see one neighborhood where everybody's got luxury cars.
Yeah.
You'll see another neighborhood where everybody's got pickup trucks. So-and-so electrician, so-and-so plumber, so-and-so painter. Those guys make as much money as the other guys.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, we've talked a lot about a lot of aspects now. One challenge that's plaguing many professionals and executives is how to balance work and family.
Yeah. Well, what I did when I was family growing up, and now we have more, at the beginning of the year, I would take my calendar and I would schedule all the holidays that required a parent to be there. Like here in the United States, we have Halloween. Okay. It's a crazy, all right. But you gotta go with your kids. Yeah. I would schedule all their games, all the games they had, soccer, baseball, whatever, beginning of the year. So I already had scheduled 25 events or whatever. We also made a rule. So then you'd go. All right. It's in your book. It's in your calendar. Very hard you'd schedule around it, if you would.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I don't know whether this is life balance or not, but I'm just telling you what that. And you'd schedule in your vacations. As a matter of fact, in How to Become CEO, one of the chapters is always take vacations. There's a lot of reasons for that. You schedule that. Okay. You schedule it. So once it's scheduled, it's as important as a business meeting. And
it's already blocked.
It's already blocked. It's already blocked. And you could some say, I want you to go here. Oh, I'm taking my kids out trick-or-treating for Halloween. Okay. I mean, it's just the way it is. And so I think whether it's life balance or not, it's again prioritizing and calendarizing. So you prioritize the kids' graduation from kindergarten. You do it. Christmas and New Year's and holidays are already done. You're not moving them, so you got to, right? And so
work around them.
You work around them. I think that's, to me, a way to balance.
I think that's a good approach. To know when you are supposed to be there for the family and other commitments. Fantastic.
The other rule we did with the kids and also today the grandchildren is no phones at the table at dinner, but you must attend dinner. Okay. So morning breakfasts are chaotic. Everybody's yelling. Blah, blah, blah. There's no point in trying to organize that. Get them to breakfast, get to the school bus and go out. But dinners are dinners, and you sit down and you have a regular dinner and you teach the kids how to put the plates and forks on the table. You have one of them say grace. You have one of them give a toast, especially if there's other people there. Our kids have been given toast since they were 3 years old. Okay, everybody's got to raise a glass and then click it. And actually, I'm writing a book on that as we think, which is called Papa's Table. And it's going to be all these little things that you teach people. That to me is life balance. You make it an important event. And what'd you learn today? And you really get into it. And the kids go, nothing. Then you say, well, what made you laugh today? Or what question's a little different, right? And get the kids. And that's
it's much better than saying, how was your day?
You don't care when you say
you don't get any good answer out of that.
No, you never do. Yeah. Anything your teacher teach you today that you didn't agree with, I ask. And that's the other thing. You teach them respect teachers and respect the police and respect seniors. But don't necessarily let them decide for you. You think for yourself. Be independent in your thinking. And that's hard for kids, but they get permission to do that. So it's okay. We had so many insights, Jeffrey, for our talk, but there is always one more insight. So, as a sign off to our talk, what would you say to the listeners, to the viewers? Well, I think that self-confidence and attitude always trump aptitude. You don't have to be the smartest person on the planet. You just have to work a little bit better, work a little bit more, show up early. Don't be sick all the time. Don't complain. Don't whine. Help the other guys. Do things when no one's watching that help the enterprise or help yourself. Learn a new hobby every couple of years. Gardening, photography, cooking. Go at it with zest and you will be successful. There's millions of people in the world. Most of them don't want to do. Let's put it this way. Anybody listening to this is going to be successful. The lazy people aren't listening to this. The people who don't care, and the people who want somebody else to do something for them, forget them. It doesn't matter. It matters what you do. And Whackadad. Words are cheap and deeds are dear. Do what you say you're going to do. That's the formula for success. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. People like to be asked. And people
they are willing to offer help when you ask.
Yeah, they always do.
That's natural. Yeah.
They always do. And then you're successful. If that's what you want to be. My books are written for the ambitious. They're not written for the laggards. They're not written for slowpoke over in the corner. They're written for people who want to be successful. And no matter what. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you read the book and you don't do anything about it, there's no point of reading the book.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, you're not my reader.
Jeffrey, thank you so much for
very welcome
putting this out.
Yeah,
it helped me so much. I encourage everyone to go and buy this book. On Amazon.com. This is a great book that helped me, and I'm sure it helped so many people around the world, people who spoke English and other languages. Jeffrey, thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be with us in this talk. Thank you so much, and I wish you more success and more books for your grandchildren. Thank you, Jeffrey.
I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Okay.
You have a good one, huh?
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, now we're done with the recording. Now we can laugh.
That was good. That was well done.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jeffrey.